Welcome back to the channel Valuable Coins HD, coin enthusiasts and collectors. If you love discovering rare coins and uncovering hidden treasures, you're in for a real treat today. We've got a coin that may have been hanging out in your pocket change or coin jar without you even realizing it, yet, it could be worth a small fortune. I'm talking about the 1988 Washington quarter, a seemingly ordinary coin, but don't let its simple appearance fool you. This quarter could be hiding a big surprise. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a quarter, nothing too special about it, right? Well, hold on to your seats because there's more to this coin than meets the eye. In fact, a 1988 Washington quarter with the right error or condition can be worth a staggering amount of money. So, if you've got one in your collection or tucked away in a jar, you might just have a hidden gem on your hands. Let's start by talking about the basics. The 1988 Washington quarter is part of the U.S. Mint's regular production series. It features the classic image of George Washington on the obverse, designed by John Flanagan. On the reverse side, you'll find the eagle and the words, United States of America, e pluribus unum, and $quarter. This design has been used for decades, and at first glance, this quarter doesn't look too different from any other that's come before or after it. But here's the thing. The 1988 Washington quarter wasn't just minted in large quantities. Like every other coin in circulation, it was made in specific quantities at different mints, including the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and some proof coins from the San Francisco Mint. While most of these coins are widely available and don't hold much value, the ones with rare errors or exceptional conditions can be worth far more than you'd expect. One of the main factors that can make the 1988 Washington quarter so valuable is the presence of mint errors, those little imperfections that occur during the production process. These errors might seem insignificant at first, but to collectors, they can turn an ordinary coin into a major find. One of the most sought-after errors for the 1988 Washington quarter is the double die obverse, DDO. This occurs when the die used to stamp the coin is misaligned, causing certain features, like the date or the words, Liberty and, In God We Trust, to appear doubled. A double die error isn't wear or damage, it's a minting mistake that makes the coin incredibly unique. These errors are difficult to find, and they're highly prized by collectors. If you happen to have a 1988 Washington quarter with a clear double die, you might be holding a rare treasure, but that's not all. Another major error that makes these quarters stand out is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin planchet isn't properly aligned with the press, causing part of the design to be missing from the edge. In some cases, this can result in a quarter with a significant portion of the image or text missing. The more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin can become. Imagine finding a 1988 quarter where the eagle is only partially visible, or part of Washington's portrait is cut off. That would be an extraordinary find. Another rare occurrence is the clipped planchet error. This happens when the coin planchet, basically the blank metal disc before it's stamped, is improperly cut, resulting in a piece of the coin missing along the edge. These clipped coins are unique and instantly recognizable by their irregular shape. If you have a 1988 Washington quarter with a clipped planchet, it's considered an error coin and can be worth a significant amount. Now, you might be wondering, how much could one of these rare 1988 Washington quarters be worth? Well, if you're fortunate enough to have a coin with one of these rare errors, and it's in near mint or mint state condition, you could be sitting on something incredibly valuable. In fact, one of these rare, error-filled 1988 Washington quarters, whether it's a double die, off-center strike, or another unique flaw, could be worth as much as $80,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $80,000 for a single 1988 Washington quarter, provided it has the right error and is in excellent condition. So, before you dismiss that old jar of change or toss another quarter into your piggy bank, take a moment to check those 1988 Washington quarters. They might be worth far more than just a quarter, and they could even turn out to be the key to unlocking a small fortune. Today, we have something truly exciting to share with you, a coin that, despite its seemingly ordinary appearance, could be worth far more than you ever imagined. We're talking about the 1965 Washington quarter dollar. Yes, a coin that you might have spent or overlooked for years could be sitting on a hidden fortune. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll see why this coin is one that every collector should keep an eye out for. The 1965 Washington quarter may seem like just another coin you might toss in your pocket change or pass along at the checkout counter, but the story behind it is far more fascinating than you might think. First, let's dive into the historical backdrop of the 1965 Washington quarter. This was a time of major change for the U.S. Mint, as it marked a significant shift in the composition of coins. In 1965, the U.S. government made the monumental decision to change the composition of the quarter, removing the silver content that had been present for decades. From 1932 until 1964, the Washington quarter was minted with 90% silver. However, due to the rising cost of silver and a national coin shortage, the 1965 quarter was made from a combination of copper and nickel, with no silver at all. This transition to a new metal composition marked a big turning point for coin collectors, as coins from 1965 and onward were no longer as valuable based on their metal content. But don't be fooled, this is exactly why the 1965 Washington quarter is so interesting and valuable today. While millions of these 1965 quarters were produced, what makes them special isn't just the change in composition, it's the errors that were made during the minting process. Yes, the 1965 Washington quarter is known for having some very unique and rare errors, and these mistakes are what make this coin so valuable. Let's talk about a few of these errors that can send the value of a 1965 quarter skyrocketing. First up is the double die error. A double die error occurs when the coin die is struck more than once, causing the image on the coin to appear doubled. This is a rare phenomenon, and when it happens, the result is a coin with an image that's slightly shifted, giving the appearance of doubling in the letters or the date. For a 1965 Washington quarter, a clear double die error on the obverse, especially on the date or Liberty, can make a world of difference. Collectors are always on the lookout for these kinds of errors, as they dramatically increase the coin's value. Another important error to keep an eye out for is the off-center strike. When a coin is improperly aligned during the minting process, part of the design can be missing, leaving a portion of the coin blank or improperly struck. This gives the coin a unique appearance, and the more pronounced the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes. If you have a 1965 Washington quarter with a noticeable off-center strike, it could be worth a pretty penny, literally, but perhaps the most fascinating and valuable error on the 1965 quarter is the clipped planchet error. This happens when the metal planchet, the blank piece of metal used to strike the coin, gets improperly cut before it's struck. As a result, part of the coin's edge is missing, creating a clipped or irregularly shaped coin. A 1965 Washington quarter with this type of error is a true rarity, and collectors will pay top dollar for such a unique piece. If you happen to find a clipped planchet error on a 1965 quarter, it could be worth far more than its face value, and we can't forget about condition. While error coins are exciting, the condition of the coin is just as important. Most 1965 Washington quarters in circulation have seen wear and tear over the years. The ones that are in mint state condition, with no scratches, dents, or discoloration, are the ones that really catch the eye of collectors. Coins that have been carefully preserved and have retained their original shine are worth significantly more than those that have been heavily circulated. So, now you're probably wondering, just how much can a 1965 Washington quarter be worth? Well, if you've got one of these rare error coins in near-perfect condition, or with a clear double die, off-center strike, or clipped planchet, you might just be sitting on a small fortune. In fact, a well-preserved 1965 Washington quarter with a dramatic minting error could be worth a mind-blowing $99,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $99,000 for a single quarter. That's right, a coin worth just 25 cents could potentially fetch you nearly $100,000, depending on the error and its condition. Now that you know just how valuable these coins can be, it's time to check your change, dig through your coin collections, and keep your eyes peeled for any 1965 Washington quarters with those rare minting errors. You could be holding onto something that's worth far more than just its face value. Today's exciting episode, where we'll be talking about a coin that may look unassuming but could hold a serious treasure for the right collector. Yes, you guessed it. We're diving deep into the world of the 1981 Washington quarter. A quarter you've probably seen many times before, but trust me, if you're a true coin enthusiast, this one could be more valuable than you think. Now, at first glance, a 1981 Washington quarter might seem just like any other coin. After all, it features the classic design with George Washington's portrait on the front, and the eagle on the reverse, symbols that have been on U.S. quarters for generations. But did you know that this seemingly ordinary coin holds the potential to become an extremely valuable find, especially for collectors who are in the know? Let's step back for a moment and understand the history behind this quarter. The 1981 Washington quarter was minted during a period when the U.S. Mint was cranking out billions of coins to meet the demands of an ever-growing economy. 1981 wasn't a year known for monumental changes in coinage, but the year would be a significant one for collectors due to a few rare occurrences in production. While the 1981 quarters were struck in massive quantities at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, this is where the story of rarity begins to unfold. Among the millions of coins produced, a few of them were stamped with mistakes during the minting process. These small errors can dramatically increase a coin's value and make it stand out as a highly desirable collector's item. Let's talk about the errors that can make the 1981 Washington quarter worth a lot more than just 25 cents. One of the most exciting things collectors look for in the 1981 Washington quarter is the double die error. This occurs when the coin die, the metal stamp used to create the coin's design, is misaligned during the striking process, resulting in a design that appears slightly doubled. Imagine seeing "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" appearing twice on the same coin. It's a fascinating error, and to collectors, it's a treasure. A 1981 Washington quarter with a noticeable double die error can easily attract the attention of collectors who specialize in minting mistakes, and these kinds of errors can raise the value of a coin significantly. Another rare and valuable feature that collectors look for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank, called a planchet, is not properly aligned with the press during the minting process, causing part of the design to be missing. If you find a 1981 Washington quarter where part of the eagle or George Washington is cut off at the edge, that's a sign of an off-center strike, and it can make the coin much more valuable than a standard quarter. The more pronounced the off-center error, the more desirable and rare the coin becomes to collectors. But let's not forget about the clipped planchet error, which is another major reason why a 1981 Washington quarter can be worth a lot more than you might expect. A clipped planchet occurs when the metal blank used to create the coin is cut incorrectly before it's struck. This results in a coin with a small portion missing from the edge, giving it a unique, irregular shape. A 1981 quarter with a clipped edge is something collectors covet, and it can fetch a much higher price than a typical quarter in circulation, and, of course, we can't ignore the condition of the coin. As with most valuable coins, the better the condition, the higher the value. Most 1981 Washington quarters that have been circulating for years show signs of wear, scratches, discoloration, and maybe even a few dings from being handled and spent. But if you happen to find a 1981 Washington quarter in pristine condition, one that looks almost as good as it did when it was first minted, you could have a real collector's item on your hands. Coins in near mint or mint state condition are far rarer than those in poor condition, and collectors will pay top dollar for these well-preserved gems. Now, let's get to the moment you've been waiting for. Just how much can a 1981 Washington quarter be worth? Well, the answer depends on the rarity of the errors and the condition of the coin. If you've got one of these rare coins with a noticeable double die, off-center strike, or clipped planchet, and it's in mint condition, the value could skyrocket. In fact, a well-preserved 1981 Washington quarter with a significant error can be worth as much as $79,000. Yes, you heard that right. $79,000 for a single 1981 Washington quarter. It's incredible to think that a coin most people have handled and spent could be worth such a large amount of money, but that's the magic of coin collecting. With the right mix of rarity, errors, and condition, something as simple as a quarter can become an extraordinary piece of history. So, what should you do next? Start searching through your change, check those coin jars, and dig through your collections, because you might just have a 1981 Washington quarter that could make you a small fortune. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of one of the most interesting and valuable quarters in American history. You might think you know everything there is to know about US coins, but I guarantee that today's coin will surprise you. We're talking about the 1996 Washington quarter, a seemingly regular coin that could be hiding a small fortune. Trust me, if you're into collecting, you'll want to pay close attention to this one because this coin might just be worth way more than you ever imagined. The 1996 Washington quarter is a part of the beloved series that features the portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the majestic eagle on the reverse. While the design itself hasn't changed much over the years, what makes the 1996 version so interesting to collectors is not just the design, but the potential hidden errors and its overall rarity. Now, when we talk about coins from 1996, many of them were mass-produced and circulated widely, but there's something about this specific year that makes it stand out in the world of numismatics. The story begins in the early 90s, when the US Mint was in the process of producing billions of coins to meet the needs of the economy. While most of these coins were minted without incident, some of the 1996 quarters were struck with unique errors that make them incredibly valuable today. So, let's talk about those rare minting mistakes that make this coin so special. The 1996 Washington quarter is known for a number of fascinating errors, and if you happen to come across one of these coins with an error, you might just have a serious treasure on your hands. One of the most sought-after mistakes on the 1996 quarter is the double die error. For those of you who might be new to coin collecting, a double die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin makes more than one impression on the coin surface. The result? A coin with a design that appears to be doubled, sometimes very clearly, sometimes only faintly. In the case of the 1996 Washington quarter, the double die error can show up in various places, such as the date, the inscription, Liberty, or the motto, In God We Trust. These errors are highly coveted by collectors because they represent a genuine mistake in the minting process, and that makes them incredibly rare. Finding a 1996 Washington quarter with a noticeable double die error could instantly increase its value, especially if the error is clearly visible and prominent, but that's not all. Another type of error that collectors are hunting for is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank, the metal piece used to create the coin, doesn't line up properly with the press during the minting process. The result? Part of the design is missing or incomplete. An off-center strike on a 1996 quarter, especially if the misalignment is significant, could be a highly desirable find for collectors looking for something unique and one-of-a-kind. The next error to keep an eye out for is the clipped planchet error. This happens when the metal planchet, the blank piece of metal used to create the coin, is cut improperly before it's struck. Instead of a perfectly round coin, you'll get one with a clipped edge. This creates an irregular shape that's visually striking and makes the coin a standout in any collection. A 1996 Washington quarter with a clipped planchet can be worth much more than a regular, error-free coin, and it's exactly the type of mistake that collectors love to add to their collections. Of course, not every 1996 Washington quarter has these rare errors, and most of them were produced in large quantities and circulated widely. That means the majority of these coins are worth just a few cents, nothing too exciting. But here's the kicker, the value of the 1996 quarter isn't just about the errors. The condition of the coin is also extremely important. A coin that's been well preserved, free from scratches, wear, and tarnish, is always going to be worth more than a coin that's been heavily circulated. If you happen to find a 1996 quarter in near-perfect condition, it could be worth a significant amount more than you'd expect. Now, let's get to the big reveal. You might be wondering, just how much can a 1996 Washington quarter be worth if it has a rare minting error or is in pristine condition? Well, the truth might just blow your mind. If you find a 1996 quarter that has a prominent error, or if it's in mint condition and has been well preserved, the value can reach an impressive $85,000. Yes, you heard that right, $85,000 for a single 1996 Washington quarter. It's amazing to think that a coin that's so commonly found in pocket change could be worth such an extraordinary amount of money. So, what should you do now? Start checking your coin collections, go through your spare change, and keep an eye out for any 1996 Washington quarters that might have those rare errors we talked about. The coin that you think is just a regular quarter might actually be worth a small fortune. Today's video is going to be an absolute treat for you. We're diving into the world of the 1982 Washington quarter, and trust me, this coin has some exciting secrets hidden beneath its surface. While it may look like a regular quarter, the 1982 Washington quarter has a fascinating backstory and, more importantly, a potential value that will blow your mind. Stick with me as we break down what makes this coin so special and why it's worth more than you might expect. Let's start with some background. The 1982 Washington quarter was minted during a time when the U.S. Mint was cranking out billions of coins to keep up with the needs of the American economy. The Washington quarter series, which first debuted in 1932, was continuing its legacy with the same iconic design, George Washington's portrait on the obverse and a magnificent eagle on the reverse. While these coins are often seen as standard circulating currency, the 1982 Washington quarter has a unique place in the world of numismatics, thanks to a few rare factors that make it stand out. Now, you may be wondering, what makes the 1982 Washington quarter so valuable? Most people would look at a regular 1982 quarter and think it's worth 25 cents, nothing more, nothing less. However, like many valuable coins, there are specific errors and variations that can transform this humble quarter into a treasure. For collectors, even the smallest flaw or unique characteristic can mean the difference between a coin worth face value and a coin worth thousands of dollars. Let's explore these rare features that make the 1982 quarter such a hot commodity. One of the most significant reasons the 1982 Washington quarter is so valuable is due to the double die error. Now, I know some of you are already familiar with this term, but for those who may not know, a double die error occurs when the coin die, the tool used to imprint the design on the coin, strikes the coin multiple times, leaving behind a design that appears doubled. On the 1982 Washington quarter, this can happen in a number of areas. Most notably, you might find the letters "In Liberty" or "In God We Trust" appearing as if they're printed twice, creating a distinct visual effect that collectors eagerly hunt for. What makes this error particularly exciting for collectors is its rarity. While double die errors do happen from time to time, not every coin gets struck in this way, making these particular 1982 quarters much more valuable than their flawless counterparts. If you find one of these error coins, you're looking at something that could fetch a very hefty price at auction, but that's not the only kind of rare find that collectors are looking for with the 1982 Washington quarter. Another valuable trait to watch out for is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank metal planchet used to strike the coin isn't properly aligned during the minting process, which leads to a misalignment of the design. The result is a coin with part of the design missing, often leaving the date, the image of Washington, or the eagle incomplete. An off-center strike on a 1982 Washington quarter can dramatically increase its value, depending on how off-center the coin is and how much of the design is missing. Another error that adds to the intrigue of this coin is the clipped planchet error. This occurs when the metal planchet, which is the blank piece of metal used to create the coin, is cut improperly before being struck. When this happens, part of the coin is missing, and it takes on a unique, irregular shape. A 1982 Washington quarter with a clipped planchet is another prime candidate for collectors, as these types of errors are relatively rare and can make the coin stand out in a collection. The more noticeable the clipped edge, the more valuable the coin becomes. Now, beyond the minting errors, the condition of the coin plays a huge role in its value. As with any collectible, the better the condition, the higher the price it can command. Most of the 1982 Washington quarters that you'll find in circulation have been heavily worn, with scratches and discoloration. However, if you find one that is in near-perfect, uncirculated condition, you could be holding on to a real gem. The coin's luster, sharp details, and lack of wear are all signs that it's in prime condition, and that condition can elevate the coin's worth to a whole new level. So, now the burning question: how much could a 1982 Washington quarter be worth if it has a rare error, is in excellent condition, or both? Well, I've got some jaw-dropping news for you. The value of this quarter can reach incredible heights, especially if you're lucky enough to find one with significant minting errors or in mint condition. With the right combination of rarity, error, and preservation, a single 1982 Washington quarter could be worth as much as $94,000. That's right, $94,000 for a 1982 Washington quarter. It's amazing to think that something as simple as a quarter could have such an extraordinary value. Whether it's a double die error, an off-center strike, or a pristine coin, the 1982 Washington quarter could be the jackpot you've been waiting for. So, what's next? Start checking your change, go through your coin collections, and search through any older rolls of quarters you might have stored away. The 1982 Washington quarter may be more valuable than you ever realized, and with a little luck, you could be sitting on a fortune. If you enjoyed learning about the 1982 Washington quarter and want to discover more hidden treasures like this, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future coin finds. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy collecting.